Minho stood alone in the observation deck of the Seoul Command Center, watching the vast darkness of space through the enormous glass window. The night was silent, and the distant stars twinkled like small diamonds scattered across black velvet. He held a cup of cold coffee in his hand, but he did not drink it. His eyes were fixed on the data streaming across the multiple screens in front of him. It was 3 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. Most of the city below was sleeping, but Minho had been awake for 32 hours straight. His job as the lead researcher at the command center demanded his full attention, and lately, something strange had been happening in the cosmic data. Something that did not fit any pattern they had ever seen before. The James Webb Space Telescope was receiving signals from deep space. Normal signals came all the time: radiation from dying stars, radio waves from pulsars, electromagnetic noise from countless sources. But this signal was different. It was too organized, it was too perfect, and it was growing stronger every day. Minho pressed a button on the main console. A window opened, showing the signal's frequency pattern. The wave formed perfect geometric shapes, squares and circles and triangles that repeated endlessly. No natural phenomenon in the universe created such perfect patterns. Only intelligence could create something like this. His hands began to shake slightly. He knew what this meant, but his mind was refusing to accept it. For years, humanity had searched the stars for signs of other life. They had sent radio messages into space, hoping that somewhere, someone would listen and answer. They had created programs to analyze cosmic signals, always hoping to find the one piece of evidence that would prove humanity was not alone in the universe. And now, perhaps, they had found it. Minho reached for his phone and called Ji-hai, the senior scientist who worked with him. Ji-hai was only 34 years old, but she was one of the brightest minds in all of Korea. She had studied patterns and codes since childhood and could see meanings in data that others could not see. Ji-hai, I need you to come to the command center right now, Minho said into the phone. Do not ask questions, just come. 20 minutes later, Ji-hai arrived, still wearing her pajamas under her coat. Her hair was messy and her eyes were heavy with sleep, but the moment she saw the data on the screens, she woke up completely. Her face went pale. "This is not real," she whispered. "This cannot be real." "Run the analysis," Minho said. "Tell me what you see." Ji-hai sat down and began typing. Her fingers moved fast across the keyboard, and lines of code filled the screen. Numbers and symbols appeared and disappeared as she searched through the signal's structure. Minutes passed. Neither of them spoke. Finally, Ji-hai turned to Minho. Her voice was very quiet. "Minho, this signal is not coming from a natural source. The structure is too perfect, too organized, too intelligent. And there is something else." She pointed at the screen. "There is a message inside the signal, a message in every human language." Minho's heart stopped for a moment. "Every language?" "English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Korean, Japanese, all of them. I have only checked a few so far, but the message is the same in every language I have translated. It says the same thing over and over again." "What does it say?" Minho asked, though part of him already knew. Ji-hai took a deep breath. "It says, 'We waited. We are ready to kneel.'" The two scientists stared at each other in the quiet observation deck. Outside, the city of Seoul continued to sleep, unaware that everything was about to change. Somewhere far above them, in the cold darkness of space, an answer had finally come. After thousands of years of human existence, after all the searching and hoping and dreaming, they were no longer alone. But the message was strange. The alien beings had not said they were coming to teach humanity. They had not said they were coming to conquer or to trade or to explore. They had said they were ready to kneel. What could that possibly mean? Minho knew that he had to report this to the government immediately. This was not something they could keep secret. This would change the entire world. But as he stood there looking at the data on the screen, he also knew something else. Something deep in his chest told him that this moment was the beginning of something much bigger than anyone could imagine. Ji-Hai suddenly grabbed his arm. "Minho, look at the age of the signal. Look at how long it has been traveling." Minho checked the data. His eyes went wide. "That is impossible," he said. "According to this calculation, the signal is traveling faster than light. No signal can travel faster than light. That violates all the laws of physics that we understand." Ji-Hai nodded slowly. "I know, but the data is clear. The signal is not old. The signal is not coming from far away in space and time. The signal is being sent instantaneously from somewhere in the Kepler 442 system, 430 light-years away. Somehow, they have found a way to send a message across the universe without any delay." Minho sat down heavily in a chair. The implications were staggering. If aliens possessed technology that could transmit messages faster than light, then they possessed technology far beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. They could be here in days, or hours, or maybe they were already here, hiding somewhere in the darkness between the stars, waiting to see how humanity would respond. He picked up the phone again and called the Minister of Science and Technology. The minister did not answer immediately, but when he did, Minho could hear the irritation in his voice. "It is the middle of the night," the minister said. "I know, sir," Minho replied. "But I need to report something. We have made contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, and they have been waiting for us." There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. "Are you certain?" the minister finally asked. "Yes, sir. I am certain," Minho said. "Then we have much to do," the minister said. "Bring all the data to my office at sunrise, and Minho, tell no one else about this. Not yet. We need to understand what we are dealing with before the world finds out." As the sun began to rise over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Minho stood once again in the observation deck. He held the cup of cold coffee in his hand. It was still cold, but now he took a long drink of it anyway. Somewhere out there, in the vast darkness of space, beings from another world were waiting. They were waiting for humanity to respond. They were waiting to see what Earth-Father would do. Minho had no idea what would happen next, but he knew that his life, and the life of every human being on Earth, would never be the same again. 5 years had passed since the signal arrived. The Soul Guardian was now leaving Earth's atmosphere, its massive engines creating a brilliant flame as it climbed higher and higher into the black sky. Commander Minho sat in the main control room, watching the blue marble of Earth grow smaller beneath them. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair tightly. Inside the ship, there were 300 people. Scientists, doctors, engineers, artists, philosophers, and leaders from every nation on Earth. They represented the best of humanity. They were the ambassadors chosen to meet with an alien civilization that had been waiting for them for reasons they still did not fully understand. Minho thought back to those 5 years. The world had nearly fallen into chaos when the news was revealed. Some people believed it was a trick or a lie. Others became afraid, thinking the aliens were coming to destroy them. There had been riots in some cities, religious leaders had called emergency meetings, governments had argued for months about how to respond to the message from the stars. But gradually, humanity had come together. They realized that this was their chance, perhaps their only chance, to find their place in the universe. They decided to build a ship. They decided to send their best people to meet these mysterious beings who claimed to be waiting for them. Standing beside Minho in the control room was Dr. Ji-Hai. She had aged over the past 5 years, with a few more lines on her face and some gray in her hair. But her eyes were still sharp and intelligent. She was studying the navigation data, checking the path that would take them to the Kepler 442 system. "All systems are normal," she said. "We are on schedule. At full acceleration, we should arrive in approximately 150 years. 150 years. Minho tried not to think about that too much. The people on this ship would grow old and die on the journey. Their children would be born in space. Their grandchildren might be the ones to finally see the alien world. Minho would not live to see the end of this journey. He was 60 years old now, and he would be an old man long before they reached their destination. But the ship had technology that the ancient world would have thought impossible. It was powered by a revolutionary engine that had been developed in secret over the past 5 years. This engine could accelerate the ship to near the speed of light, and it used less fuel than anyone had thought possible. Scientists around the world had worked together on this project. For once, all the nations of Earth had put aside their disagreements and worked toward a single goal. Walking through the corridors of the Soul Guardian, Minho saw people from all backgrounds working together. There were scientists from America talking with engineers from China. There were artists from Africa collaborating with historians from India. On the lower deck, he saw children playing together, children who had been born on Earth but who would grow up in the stars. These children would become the first humans to meet an alien civilization. In a special chamber deep inside the ship, Sora was working. Sora was a historian and cultural expert, and she was organizing what would become humanity's gift to the alien civilization. The chamber was filled with books, artwork, music, films, and recordings. It contained every important creation in human history. It held everything that humans had created that was beautiful or meaningful or true. Sora was a small woman with dark eyes that seemed to hold all the wisdom of the ages. She had spent her entire life studying ancient texts and old cultures. 5 years ago, when the government had asked her to prepare humanity's cultural heritage for the meeting with aliens, she had agreed immediately. "Look at this," Sora said to Minho as he entered the chamber. She was holding an ancient Korean manuscript, handwritten in classical Korean script. "This is from the year 1400. It is a book of philosophy and astronomy written by a Korean scholar named Tae-sung. In it, Tae-sung writes about beings who came from the sky and taught our ancestors the secrets of the stars and the world. He calls them the Sky Fathers. No one believed him when he wrote this. Historians said it was myth and legend. But now, 500 years later, I wonder if Tae-sung knew something that we had forgotten." Minho took the manuscript carefully and looked at the beautiful handwriting. "What do you think he knew?" he asked. "I think," Sora said slowly, "that our ancestors knew more about the universe than we have given them credit for. I think that throughout human history, there have been hints and clues about beings from other worlds. They appear in our myths and our legends. They appear in our art and our stories. We have always been waiting for them, even if we did not know that we were waiting." As the Soul Guardian continued its journey into space, tensions began to grow among the crew. Not everyone was happy about this mission. Some of the soldiers who had been brought along as protection were nervous and suspicious. Some of the older scientists did not trust aliens and worried about what would happen when they finally met them. One night there was an argument in the common area. A soldier named Sung Min, a tough man with a scarred face, was speaking loudly to anyone who would listen. "This is madness," Sung Min said. "We are flying into the unknown with no weapons, no defenses. If the aliens want to attack us, we have nothing to protect ourselves with. They could destroy us with a single weapon. We would be helpless." Minho heard about this argument from one of his officers. He called Sung Min to his private quarters and spoke with him alone. "I understand your fear," Minho said to Sung Min. "But the aliens have had countless opportunities to attack Earth over the past 5 years. They have not done so. They have only sent us a message saying they were waiting and that they were ready to kneel. They do not sound like beings who want to attack us." "Words can be lies," Sung-min replied. And what does kneel even mean? Why would a powerful alien civilization kneel before humans? It does not make sense. No, it does not, Minho agreed. And that is why we must go to them. We must meet them and find out the truth. If we turn back now, if we let fear stop us, then we will never know the truth. And I believe that knowing the truth is worth the risk. Sung-min said nothing for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You are right, Commander. I apologize. I am just afraid. I have never faced anything like this before. Neither have I, Minho said. None of us have, but we are doing this together, and that makes us strong. Years passed. The ship traveled through the darkness of space. Through the viewports, the crew could see distant stars and nebulae and wonders that most humans had never seen. Children were born on the ship. Old people died. Life continued, but it was a strange life, a life between worlds. Finally, after what felt like an eternity to those on board, the sensors detected something ahead, a system, a star with planets orbiting around it, the Kepler 442 system. They had arrived. But what greeted them was not what they expected. As they approached the system, thousands upon thousands of ships appeared. Alien vessels of all sizes and shapes, arranged in perfect formations around the star. They were not attacking. They were simply waiting, just as the message had said. Minho stood on the observation deck with Ji-Hai and So-Ra beside him. Behind them, hundreds of the crew had gathered to witness this moment. Before them lay something that would change humanity forever. Before them lay the answer to the question that humans had asked since they first looked up at the stars. Are we alone? They are here, Ji-Hai whispered. Yes, Minho said. They are here, and we are going to meet them. A new message came through the communication system, transmitted from the alien fleet. It was in Korean. It was in the voice of someone, or something, that had never been heard before, and it said simply, Welcome home, Earth-Father. Your children are waiting. The landing shuttle descended through layers of strange clouds. The atmosphere of Kepler 442b was different from Earth's atmosphere. It shimmered with colors that Minho had never seen before, colors that seemed to exist between purple and green and gold. As the shuttle broke through the clouds, the surface of the alien world came into view. Minho, Ji-Hai, and So-Ra stood together in the observation window of the shuttle, unable to look away from what lay beneath them. The landscape was not like anything on Earth. There were mountains made of what looked like crystal, glowing from within with blue and green light. There were valleys filled with forests of tall structures that looked halfway between trees and buildings. Everything seemed to be made of materials that were both solid and somehow alive. Everything seemed to be glowing. The city they were approaching was at the center of a vast plain. It was not built up, but rather seemed to grow from the ground itself. Spiraling towers reached toward the sky, and between them flowed what looked like rivers of light instead of water. There were structures that bent at impossible angles. There were platforms that floated in the air, connected by bridges made of pure light. My God, Ji-Hai breathed. It is beautiful. It is impossible, So-Ra added. How can they build things like this? What materials could be strong enough? What engineering could allow structures to float without visible support? The shuttle landed smoothly in a massive amphitheater carved into the ground. The space was enormous, large enough to hold thousands of people, and it was filled with beings. As the shuttle doors opened and the ramp descended, Minho took his first breath of alien air. It tasted strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. He stepped out slowly, carefully, as though he was walking on the surface of another planet, which he was. The aliens standing in the amphitheater were not what Minho had expected. They were not the little green creatures that humans had imagined for centuries. They were not monsters or demons. They were something far stranger and far more beautiful. The beings before him seemed to be made of light that had been shaped into form. Their bodies shimmered and changed color. Their faces had features that were almost human, but also something more than human. Then, from among the crowd of beings, 3 figures stepped forward. These 3 beings were larger and more solid than the others, and they seemed to shine with greater intensity. Their light was more stable, more defined. They walked toward Minho and his team, and the crowd of aliens parted to let them through. The tallest of the 3 beings bowed deeply before Minho. Then it spoke. Its voice was not made of sound waves like human voices. Instead, it appeared directly in Minho's mind, translated instantly into perfect Korean. "Greetings, Earthfather," the being said. "I am Kale, first of the Triad. We have waited so long for you. The ancient prophecies said that one day the sleeper would awaken. One day the children of the Maker would rise from their young world and take their place among the children of the stars. Today, that day has come." Minho stepped forward and bowed back. "I am Commander Minho of Earth. I greet you on behalf of all humanity, but I must confess that I do not understand. You speak of prophecies and sleeping and makers. Can you explain what you mean?" The 3 beings stood in a line, and Kyle began to speak. His words filled Minho's mind with images and knowledge. It was like watching a film but experiencing it directly, feeling it in every part of his body. Millions of years ago, there had been a great civilization. They were not from this galaxy or any nearby galaxy. They had traveled from across the universe, exploring and seeding life on countless worlds. They had possessed knowledge and power that was almost godlike. They had discovered a way to implant consciousness and knowledge into the very structure of DNA itself. They had learned how to encode information into the genetic material of every living thing. This civilization had come to Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. They had taken the early human-like creatures that lived on the planet and modified them. They had given them gifts of knowledge and consciousness. They had planted seeds of greatness within the human genetic code. Then they had left, knowing that humanity would eventually grow and develop and one day join the cosmic community. But the gift came with a condition. Humanity had to develop on its own. They had to make their own choices. They had to learn their own lessons. They could not be helped or guided. They had to rise through their own efforts alone. Only when they had achieved sufficient technological and spiritual maturity on their own would they be ready to take their place among the stars. And then, Kale explained, the great civilization had vanished. Some said they had left the universe. Some said they had transcended into a form of existence that was beyond the understanding of ordinary beings. No one knew what had happened to them. But they had left behind guardians and watchers to ensure that their seeded civilizations would one day rise and join the great family of cosmic beings. The Triad and all the other alien races had been waiting, watching, protecting the young worlds as they grew and developed. They had been like guardians caring for children, and now Earth had reached maturity. Humanity had created technology that allowed them to leave their world. Humanity had achieved a level of cooperation and unity that was rare among young species. Humanity was ready. "But why?" Minho asked. "Why do you wait for us? Why do you kneel before us? Why do you call me Earthfather?" Kyle's light dimmed slightly, as if the being was experiencing some kind of emotion. "Because Minho of Earth, you are the fulfillment of the prophecy. Within your genetic code, within your very consciousness, rests a spark of the original Maker. You carry within you the consciousness of one of the ancient ones who planted your species so long ago. You are not just a human leader. You are an echo of the gods themselves." Minho felt his knees weaken. He looked at Jihai and Sora. and he could see the shock in their faces as well. "This is too much," Minho said. "This is too great a burden to carry." "Yes," Kale agreed, his voice gentle in Minho's mind. "It is a great burden, but it is also a great gift, and there is someone who must speak with you before you fully understand what this means. Someone who has waited longer than any of us. Someone who has the authority to decide whether humanity will be allowed to join the community of worlds as equals or as servants." "Who?" Minho asked. "The Queen," Kale replied. "The ancient Queen of the Galactic Union. Her name is Lyria, and she is older than 1,000,000 years. She is more powerful than she seems. She has ruled all the known worlds for longer than most species have existed. She has commanded that you be brought to her." A tremor of fear ran through Minho, but he stood tall and looked at the three beings before him. "Then let us go," he said. "Let us meet your queen. Let us find out what destiny has in store for humanity." The amphitheater suddenly filled with a sound like music, a harmonic resonance that came from every being gathered there. It was a sound of hope and anticipation and something else, something that Minho could not quite identify, something that might have been joy or relief or perhaps thanksgiving. Sora reached over and took Minho's hand. Her grip was firm and strong. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "we face it together, for Earth." Minho nodded, and together with Jihai and Sora and the rest of their delegation, he followed Kale and the Triad away from the amphitheater. They walked through the Crystal City, past structures that defied understanding, past beings from species so different from humanity that Minho could barely comprehend their existence. They walked toward the Crystal Spire, the oldest structure on the planet where the Queen was waiting. They walked toward their fate. They walked toward a meeting that would determine the future of the entire human race. The Crystal Spire rose into the sky like a needle made of frozen light. It was the most beautiful and most terrifying structure that Minho had ever seen. As they approached it, he felt smaller and smaller, as though his importance was shrinking with every step. This building had existed for millions of years. The beings who had ruled from within this structure had watched galaxies form and die. And now he, a man who was only 60 years old, was about to walk inside and meet their queen. The interior of the Crystal Spire was not what Minho expected. Instead of a massive throne room or a great hall, he found himself in a chamber that seemed to exist in a space that was too large to fit inside the building. The walls curved away into infinity in all directions. The floor beneath his feet was transparent, and below it, he could see something that looked like vast archives or libraries stretching down forever. This chamber held memories. He could feel it. This chamber held the accumulated knowledge of 1,000,000 years of galactic history. In the center of the chamber sat the Queen. She was not sitting on a throne, though a throne seemed to form around her from the light itself. She was simply there, existing, radiating power so immense that Minho could feel it pressing against his skin like a physical force. Her form was the most perfect synthesis of light and matter that Minho could imagine. She appeared as a woman, but also as something far greater than any human could ever be. Her eyes held the light of ancient stars. Her skin seemed to contain whole galaxies within it. "I am Lyria," the Queen said, and her voice created vibrations in the very air that made Minho's bones resonate. "I am the Keeper of Worlds. I am the last child of the Makers. I am the one who has been waiting for you, Minho of Earth, for longer than your entire species has existed." Minho fell to his knees. It was not a conscious choice. His body simply could not support itself in the presence of such tremendous power and authority. He felt Jihai and Sora kneel beside him, though they had not been commanded to do so. They simply knew, instinctively, that this was the only correct response. Your Majesty, Minho said, his voice shaking, I am honored to meet you. I am honored to stand in your presence. Do you know why I have called you here? Lyria asked. She did not move from where she sat, but she seemed to lean closer to Minho, as if studying him with great intensity. I do not know, Your Majesty, Minho replied. Your Triad spoke of prophecy and destiny. They spoke of the makers and the gifts given to humanity, but I do not fully understand. Then I will show you, Lyria said. I will show you everything. I will show you the truth of your existence and the reason why you have been waiting for this moment. The Queen raised her hand, and Minho felt a connection forming between them. Not a physical connection, but a connection of consciousness. His mind began to expand. His awareness grew larger and larger until it seemed to fill the entire universe. He could see things. He could perceive the flow of time itself. He saw the Earth in the distant past, when it was a young world, covered with primitive life. He saw the first humans, simple creatures barely different from animals. He saw the makers arrive in their great ships. He saw them take human DNA and weave into it knowledge and consciousness. He saw them teaching humanity's early ancestors and then leaving them to develop alone. He saw humanity rise through the ages. He saw the wars and the suffering. He saw humans killing each other over borders and resources and beliefs. He saw cities burn and empires fall. He saw his ancestors starving and dying from sickness and despair. He saw the worst of what humanity could be, but he also saw something else. He saw humans creating art that was so beautiful it made him want to weep. He saw humans sacrificing their own lives to save strangers. He saw humans forgiving those who had wronged them. He saw humans choosing hope when everything else seemed hopeless. He saw humanity learning and growing and slowly becoming something greater than what they had been before. He saw the moments when humanity could have destroyed itself and chosen not to. He saw the moments when humanity could have continued down a path of darkness and instead turned toward the light. He saw the creation of civilization. He saw the building of cities and the creation of art and music and literature. He saw humans reaching toward the stars even when they could not fly. He saw them building telescopes and sending signals into space, hoping that someone would listen. He saw all of human history, from its beginning to the present moment, and he understood that it was beautiful. Then the Queen released him, and Minho gasped for breath, tears streaming down his face. You see now, Lyria said softly. You see what your species truly is. You are young, and you have made terrible mistakes. You have caused suffering and pain, but you are also capable of transcendence. You are capable of choosing love over hate, light over darkness. This is rare, Minho. This is very rare among the young species of the galaxy. Most never achieve what you have achieved. Most destroy themselves before they reach your level of maturity. What does this mean? Minho asked. What are you asking of me? I am not asking anything of you, Lyria replied. But there are others who are demanding that I make a choice. There are ancient powers in the galaxy who do not want humanity to rise. They fear change. They fear that if a young species like yours is given power and authority, it will disrupt the order that has existed for millions of years. They are asking me to deny you entry into the Galactic Collective. They are asking me to keep you as a subordinate species, not worthy of equality with those who have ruled the stars for eons. Minho's heart sank. He had suspected that something like this might happen. In his own world, there were always those who feared change and tried to prevent the rise of those they considered beneath them. What will you do? Minho asked. Lyria stood. She was impossibly tall, impossibly magnificent. She walked toward Minho, and the light around her grew brighter and brighter. She stood above him, looking down at him where he knelt on the transparent floor of the great chamber. And then, the Queen of the Galactic Union, the most powerful being in the known universe, the Ancient One who had ruled for 1,000,000 years, knelt before Minho. She bowed her head, and all her great power seemed to humble itself in that moment. "I have made my choice," Lyria said. "You are not slaves. You are not servants. You are the inheritors of the promise made by the Makers so long ago. You are worthy to lead." The moment stretched forever. Minho understood that this was a defining moment in the history of the universe. The Queen had chosen humanity, and in that choice, everything would change. The Great Assembly had gathered in a chamber so massive that it could hold millions of beings. Representatives from over 400 alien civilizations stood together, waiting to hear the Queen's decision. The air in the chamber hummed with tension. Some beings seemed nervous, others seemed angry. Everyone understood that what was about to happen would change the future of the entire galaxy. Minho stood on a platform in the center of the chamber, with Jihai and Sora beside him. Above them, in a place of great honor, sat the Queen. Her light was softer now, less overwhelming, but no less powerful. The Triad stood to her left, and to her right was an empty space where her advisors would normally stand. But today, it was empty, showing that she had made this decision alone, without the counsel of others. A being stepped forward from the crowd. It was ancient and massive, made of dark metal and darker thoughts. This being radiated a cold intelligence that made Minho feel afraid without knowing exactly why. "I am Var-Chen," the being said, its voice like the grinding of stone. "I speak for the Dominion, the alliance of the oldest species in the galaxy. We have ruled these stars for over 1 billion years. We have maintained order and peace through strength and discipline. We do not recognize the right of a newborn species to rise above their station. We demand that this human be cast down and that Earth be placed under Dominion protection until they have learned respect for the ancient ways." Many beings in the crowd agreed. Minho could see them nodding and making sounds of approval. There were hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. These were ancient species, civilizations that had existed long before humanity had even learned to use fire. They had power and experience that humanity could not match. Minho felt Jihai grip his hand tightly. She was afraid. He was afraid too. But then Minho stepped forward to speak. He had not planned what he would say. The words came from somewhere deep within him, from the same place where hope lives and where courage is born. "I am Minho," he said, and his voice echoed through the great chamber. "I am from a young world called Earth. I am from a species that has only recently reached the stars. You are right that we are young. You are right that we have much to learn. But I want to tell you why humanity is not dangerous. I want to tell you why we deserve a place in your community." Minho took a breath. He could feel all the eyes in the chamber fixed on him. Even the Queen was leaning forward slightly, listening with great attention. "My species has a history of terrible violence," Minho continued. "We have had wars where millions of our own people died. We have had diseases that killed entire populations. We have had natural disasters that destroyed civilizations. We have been hungry and desperate and suffering. We have been on the edge of extinction more times than we can count. But each time we faced destruction, instead of breaking, we became stronger. Instead of giving up, we chose to try again." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "But more than that," he said, "we have chosen compassion. Even when we were poor and weak, we shared our resources with those who had nothing. Even when we were in pain, we helped others who were suffering. We have created beauty for the sake of beauty. We have created music and art and stories not because they would help us survive, but because we needed to create something beautiful. That is what makes humanity worth protecting. Not our strength, but our heart. Not our power, but our capacity for love." Sora stepped forward and opened a container she had been holding. From it, she took out a small object, a simple sculpture made of wood carved by human hands thousands of years ago. It was an ancient artifact, something a human had made for no reason except the desire to create something beautiful. "This object is 5,000 years old," Sora said. "The person who made it has been dead for so long that no one remembers their name. But they made this because they wanted to create something that would outlast them. They wanted to leave behind something that would show that they existed. This is what humanity does. This is what we value. Not conquest, not domination, but creation. Not power, but love." Jihai spoke next. "I am a scientist," she said. "I have dedicated my life to understanding the universe. I want to share with you some of the knowledge that Earth has developed. Technology that came not from the desire to make weapons, but from the desire to heal. Medicine that we have created to save lives, developed by people who had nothing to gain except the satisfaction of knowing they had helped others. If we are given a place in your community, I promise that we will share everything we have learned. We will work with your scientists to solve problems that have seemed impossible for ages." The beings in the chamber began to murmur among themselves. Some still seemed opposed, but others appeared to be considering the words they had heard. Then the queen stood. The entire chamber fell silent. "I have listened," Lyria said, her ancient voice filling the space. "I have watched this young species struggle and grow and choose the path of light. I have been keeping record of humanity for over 1,000 years, ever since they first reached beyond their world. And I have seen something remarkable. I have seen a species that is capable of great cruelty, also capable of great compassion. A species that could choose the easy path of domination, but instead often chooses the harder path of cooperation and understanding." She gestured toward Minho. "Therefore, I have made my decision. Humanity will not be servants. Humanity will not be subjects of the Dominion or any other power. Instead, I declare that the age of human leadership has begun. The next era of galactic governance will be led by a human-led council. The ancient species will serve as advisors and elders, as you should. But the future belongs to those who can imagine change and growth. The future belongs to those who have learned that strength comes not from force, but from unity." There was an explosion of sound in the chamber. Many beings cheered, some roared, but some also expressed anger. The Dominion beings turned away, refusing to acknowledge the Queen's decision. There would be conflict. There would be those who resisted this change, but the decision had been made. Minho fell to his knees again, but this time not from fear or submission, this time from overwhelming emotion. He thought of Earth. He thought of all the people who had struggled and suffered and built civilization from nothing. He thought of all the artists and philosophers and scientists and lovers and dreamers who had made humanity what it was. They would have a voice in the cosmic community now. Their children and their grandchildren would inherit a place among the stars. That night, Minho stood alone on the observation platform of the alien city. He looked up at the sky above Kepler 442b and saw stars that had no names in human language. He thought about how much had changed in such a short time, how much the future had changed, and he understood that the true work was just beginning. It was not enough to be given a place in the galactic community. Humanity would have to prove itself worthy of that place. They would have to show that they could lead with wisdom and compassion. They would have to show that their strength came not from weapons, but from their ability to unite different peoples and find common ground. The Queen appeared beside him, her form glowing softly in the darkness. "You are ready for what comes next?" she asked. "I do not know if I am ready," Minho replied, "but I will do my best." "That is all any of us can do," Lyria said. And together the Queen and the human watched the alien stars, watching the beginning of a new age.